Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of Fake Accents Unite. Very happy to be back. I hope you're all doing well. I can see we've got a decent number of people waiting in the wings and chatting away. I'm joined this evening by daughter of Albion. Well, you'll know her as Sarah. Good evening.
Hello.
And also by Tailed Feature.
Hello there.
And didn't give the typical Fescamar there.
I didn't know because I was half eating pasta at the same time.
We will be joined by the British. He is coming, but unfortunately he's delayed by 5 to 10 minutes. You can place your bets in the chat as to whether or not that's due to his deficit of tea, whether or not he's collecting a Tesco delivery, or whether or not he's just lost the will to live and needs to get it back. That sort of thing. I'm on a... Oh, my voice is deep again, is it? Oh, great.
I thought it was because you had a cold or something.
No, just let me know.
Mark, that happens to me sometimes if everyone thinks I'm using a voice changer.
Your voice goes really deep as well. Is that what it is?
Sometimes with the microphone, if it nudges out of place. To explain myself.
I will just... I wonder why we lost a decent number of people. And of course, yeah, I'm trying my absolute best to get this microphone.
Is this Satan again?
I know, it's just it's not intentional, and that's...
Good evening, Britisher.
Hello,
Britisher.
Hi there. It has a quality of something from hell, doesn't it? Oh, you're back. There you are.
Just living in a smoggy London, possibly.
It's called an Ivan Rebrov setting.
I do. I know who that is.
I don't. Can I be mansplained to you?
So you don't know who Ivan Rebrov is?
No.
He was he's a bit of a hero of mine. Hence, I like telling the story because.
I'm sorry, Mark. Mark, you're getting an F in chat. I'm sorry. Maybe the stream is gone. Sorry to interrupt you, Richard.
No problem.
Okay, well that's not a problem, is it?
Yeah,
well, no, I think that more than that enriches things.
Oh, stop
it.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, Richard.
It's because
no problem.
There is one USB slot on my machine, which is what caused the Brian Blessed filter. But I unplugged the microphone, plugged it into the right USB slot, and now, of course, I just needed to switch OBS so that it works. I am very sorry to everyone who's trying to listen in again.
You missed 2 weeks, Mark, and then
it
all goes to shit.
Look, when I said I lost my voice last week, which was not an exaggeration, it's horrendous. Yeah, like it's clearly carried over.
Well, you definitely had a voice a few seconds ago.
Yes.
Somebody else's.
What?
Yeah.
Well, anyway, I'm not sure somebody else's. It was more something else's, wasn't it?
We were explaining the Ivan Rebrov paradox.
Oh, the tale of Ivan Rebrov.
Yeah,
yes.
Go for it.
So this must have been somewhere in the late 60s or early 70s or whatever. This chap emerged in Germany. Now, he claimed to have had some sort of Russian ancestry or something, but, I mean, he just seemed plain German. And I think he was a plumber, but he took singing lessons. So he obviously must have had some sort of talent or fancied himself, if you know what I mean. And then his singing instructor told him that he thought he had a remarkable talent for Russian folk songs. So they must have tried a few different genres, if you know what I mean, and encouraged him to start off in that career. So, of course, he sort of, thought, well, it's either plumbing or singing. So he kind of went about doing that, and he started kind of dressing up as a sort of Russian Cossack. He grew himself a nice full beard, like someone we know, and lo and behold, he was the greatest Russian folk singer of his generation. He was better than the Russians. He became a world star, but he was a German. And
And so,
the beauty of it was that when eventually, in the early 90s, the Iron Curtain fell and everything, Gorbachev awarded him a honorary Russian citizenship. Because he said, throughout the days of the Cold War, where we, the Russians, were the villains in every single movie, you were the only positive image of a Russian throughout the world. And we thank you for it.
and so,
Yes, I mean, the man was, the man was truly moved to tears that after all these years of being a pretend Russian, he was eventually made one.
And so, yes, the British.
That's charming.
The British seems to believe, mistakenly, I might add, that I am either reincarnated version of Ivan Rebrov, or just the man himself.
Well, yes, it's the beard. What can I say? I mean, just enter Ivan Rebrov in Google, and you will see it's spitting.
Have a little nose.
Not so obvious.
Rebrov.
But yes, he was a world class singer.
Oh, he is right. He's quite Brian Blessed as well, isn't he? Crikey.
And well, yes, I mean, he's got the booming voice, and he had a ridiculous octave range. So for anybody who wants an intro into Ivan Rebrov, listen to the song Ochi Chernye, which means black eyes.
Because Britisher is a racist, and
it will blow you away. But yes, he does all the all the sort of traditional Russian, balalaika accompanied Cossack songs and whatever. But yes, within his own, for his generation, he was the best of them, and he wasn't Russian.
So there we go. That is the traditional weekly. Let's call not so obvious Ivan Rebrov, and then explain the story again.
I appreciate the explanation.
Of course. So Scowen has sent a super chat which says 1,209,868 seconds late. The importance of just how late you are would be hard to describe, even with all existing molecules in the known universe available to write a book with. Thank you, Scowen.
Sharon is my favourite subscriber of yours.
That was a somewhat astronomical explanation, wasn't it?
I mean, he has been denied for 2 weeks the ability to tell us that we are late. So
I think if he's going into astronomy, we need to kind of start setting him challenges for his next complaint, shouldn't we? So his next complaint should somehow contain either black holes or bent space.
Oh yeah, sure. This just seems
so we'll see how you fare, it's going. I have faith in you. You can do this.
Cheers. This just such a weird thing. Thank you to Mingus Jew for becoming a member.
Look, I mean, we've done weird things on this channel. I mean, we almost killed Dominic once.
We did.
With his drinking game and mentioning the Romans.
No. It was it somewhat? The word was somewhat. And
yes, that could have been.
And so every single time the British says the word somewhat, have a shot. And yes, we nearly hospitalised man. That was that's why we don't play that game anymore.
Or if you know what I mean.
If you know what I mean, yes, of course. But I think
reminds me of a time.
Somewhat, and if you know what I mean, maybe kind of games and bets they are willing to take on. Regarding anything about my mentioning the Romans, I think they'll all decline, won't they?
I'm told that I also say and so on and so forth very often, although I don't believe that for a second. It'd be ridiculous.
And Sargon says, and things like this.
Does he? Oh,
that's his one, yeah. I pick up on these things so quickly, it's annoying.
So Scowen says, "Don't tempt me." That's the thing.
Do it.
People are asking me to make sure the chat is scrolled down properly. I think it's just the box, my friend,
just to make it fit on the screen, it does what it does, but it will catch itself up eventually, and there is a little bit of stream delay. That's all it is. So I've got a few stories, a fair few stories for today. There's some fun stuff in here. So if we get past, I tell you what, I'll start with the namesake of this stream, which is called Lib Dem Ramadan Edition. For those of you who don't know, the Liberal Democrats are a party in the UK who once had a modicum of power and then threw it all away and have been on the decline ever since. To the point where in the last set of the last set of general election debates, they were actually turned down a spot on TV because their support was so low, and Jo Swinson who was the leader of the Liberal Democrats at the time, was summarily told after she demanded to be on there as the only representative of the only female prime ministerial candidate, that she had not a hope in hell of getting the prime ministership. So this
was while she was telling the media that indeed in this election anything's possible, and she could indeed turn out to become to be the prime minister.
Yes, even though she was at the time polling lower than UKIP did, when they were at the height of their prominence as well. So I'm going to pop this image up on screen, and I'm going to send the image to Stream Chat for people to have a look at whilst we're going. So Ian Manning and another Lib Dem councillor, I can't remember her name, basically decided that they would do Ramadan, or not Ramadan, but they would do 1 day of Ramadan fasting to show solidarity with the Islamic community. And as you can see here, at the end of the evening, after a day of not eating, Mr. Manning here decided to put up what he was breaking his fast with, which, as I'm sure we can all appreciate, happens to be bacon and eggs.
That's hilarious.
Not a great.
What a moron. That's very funny.
What other religions do they feel the need to be in solidarity with?
Oh, well, the big thing was, of course, none of them decided that they would show solidarity for Lent, which just finished.
I was going to say, 40 days of fasting by Christians.
There was
the next thing they're gonna circumcise their male children. Well, there we go.
Maybe they'll do it in solidarity with Paul.
Transgenderism.
With Paul, they'll circumcise themselves as adults and have to writhe around for a week in agony if the reports.
Yeah, where's their solidarity with the Zoroastrians? That's what I want to know.
Oh God, I can't.
It was only for a day as well.
And it's just like, but not that Muslims fast properly anyway. I mean, they do break
I think there is an even more interesting group they could be solidaric with, and that is the Yazidis. Who knows what? Yes, who knows what that would require from them?
Oh crikey! Preventing genocide, presumably.
I mean, I don't know what the Yazidis are, but that's just
Yazidis.
Oh,
Yazidis.
Oh, okay, the Yazidis.
Minorities that ISIS famously tried to genocide.
Yes.
We have a new guest.
Apparently, current commentator is here.
Hello.
Right. The bacon and eggs thing, which of course great thing, but it's also funny because even if he hadn't posted up this, it's just they're so disconnected from reality. You don't even understand the primary tenets of the faith which you're showing solidarity with. But also, it's the thing that, first of all, they alienate everyone who isn't Muslim, who's just going. Well, it's clear that you're holding Islam up to a different standard than everyone else. Second of all, the Muslims are laughing at them because even if you hadn't posted a picture of pork, they'd only do the fast for 1 day, and they don't seem to understand why Muslims do Ramadan or why religious people do religious fasting in the first place, which is it's not just a fad, it's not just a thing they do it to show devotion to whatever deity it is.
It's also the fact that they only do it for Islam. Like, they didn't do anything for Lent. You didn't have them virtue signalling about what they're giving up for Lent.
Karen, can I just ask you to jump out for this
Dignity.
one, because we've got enough guests, but we might have you on another time. That's all right.
Okay.
No problem. Yeah. So
Oh, I feel bad now.
Oh, Mark, that was brutal.
too many voices. That's what it is. But yes.
No, I did cover
no.
this story in the week that was, and I mean, these were the councillors. You know, the bacon eaters were the councillors. There were MPs doing this. So Ed Davey MP, who I believe once upon a time was a minister, was somewhere huddled in his kitchen speaking to camera about his solidarity with Muslims. Doing the fast. But this one is the one that tickles me most, and this is Layla Moran MP. I mean, she again is one of these who jumps onto every single virtue signalling bandwagon you can think of. And this is her tweet. Today is my first ever fast. I'll be doing so in solidarity with the millions of Muslims throughout the world doing Ramadan during isolation. Remember, you are not alone, and we will get through this together. And now the final sentence. Thanks so much to Athina Bukhari LD for the great idea.
Okay.
It wasn't even their idea.
So who was the
I
one
see.
that? Who was the one that deleted their tweet that had bacon on it? Was it
That was Ian Manning. Yeah.
Yeah.
He had to issue an official apology.
Well, that's the thing, though. Apparently there weren't really particularly any Muslims that found it offensive, but there were people finding it offensive on the behalf of Muslims.
Oh, when have
Presumably,
we seen that before? Well, mainly because the Muslims are just like, what does this kafar think, right? Like, they don't care.
Well, yes, but this is the
Trump,
very much
like,
the
unintentional.
sentiment. Sorry, go ahead.
Go on, Britisher.
No, this is very much the sentiment I get with that thanks so much to Hina Bukhari LD. So here is some Lib Dem who, I mean, Hina Bukhari, I'm assuming this is a Muslim person.
Yeah.
And this is the person who has suggested to them, oh, wouldn't it be nice if you all joined us in doing this?
Yeah.
As in, you can't help but suspect that he was someone kind of making a bit of a spectacle out of the others, and they were kind of too sheepish to say no and went along with it.
It's possibly. It's also it's funny because fasting in any religious context is quite a private affair. So like the whole point, like there are verses I don't know necessarily about the Quran, but when it comes to like Christian fasting, and obviously the two texts are quite similar in some places. That's a debate for another day, whether or not one's pulling from the other. But in the Judaic faiths, there are lines about don't trust the person who covers their face in ash, clothes themselves in sackcloth, and wails their prayers on the street corner. They're the people who you should not be emulating. Whereas these people, the secular liberal Democrats are there just going #LibDem iftar, of course. Nonsense. But yes, so Ian Manning is counter-councillor in Cambridgeshire, taking part in #LibDem iftar, where Liberal Democrats fasted for one day on a Saturday.
So brave.
Tweeted, yes, so strong, so brave. He tweeted a photo.
It's a late lunch, isn't it?
Yeah, he tweeted a photo of his plate of bacon and boiled eggs with the caption, "Up early to start my fast. Really not sure I'll get through to the evening, but we'll see."
Really? It's so difficult to go a day without food.
He also, apparently, even though he was asked to apologise, he just said, "RE food photo earlier, important point is the fast, allergies mean choice is limited." It's like, are you allergic to every other meat on earth that you had to have bacon?
This
Like,
guy, oh my gosh.
He's only allowed to he has a bacon and egg diet and nothing else.
Just see if he came out and says, "No, bacon's delicious." Then I'd have been fine with that.
I'd have thought that he was an insider feigning ignorance so that he could just play the crowd.
So epic troll. I can't believe he didn't fry those eggs though. That's not a proper fry up, is it?
Boiled eggs and bacon.
Yeah,
and he's not even done it.
mate.
He's not even done his bacon properly. I mean, I bet he put them on a baking tray and cooked it in the oven. swine, like the Americans do.
Put it in the microwave.
Foil.
Oh, microwave.
Oh, microwave.
Grim.
Well, that's how Americans boil water, isn't it?
Oh,
They don't use a kettle.
Don't.
I suppose so.
Yes, don't mention the boiled water in the microwave.
I've triggered Britisher already.
I think we did do a stream on that at one point where we had Liz on or something, and she was going, "It's not that weird, but we do have kettles. It's just no one uses them." But yeah, the other thing which has come out very recently. Okay, so I assume that all of you are familiar, even if you may not have watched it, with Star Wars. Yeah,
I've heard of it.
right.
I know Star Wars is a thing.
Yes, and you know that there is a Star Wars Day. So
The 4th of May.
the 4th of May, May the 4th. May the 4th be with you, as they say, which is a little bit cringe, but you know, whatever.
And also the date's the wrong way around because that's American.
I know, but Disney decided to tweet out, "Celebrate the saga. Reply with your favourite hashtag Star Wars memory, and you may see it somewhere special on hashtag May the 4th. By sharing your message with us using hashtag May the 4th, you agree to our use of the message and your account name in all media and our terms of use here." So they've claimed the entire hashtag.
Of course they have. That's what they
You
do.
could have some fun with that, though.
Yes.
And of course, people have been quite disparaging. Reminds me quite a lot of a small YouTube sort of controversy a little while ago, where a group called the Fine Bros were doing they were doing reaction videos, and so they tried to copyright the word reaction for use on YouTube. So
they went after people who were doing reaction videos going, nope, this is our format, no one else can do it.
Yeah, no one else could do it, and if you put the word reaction in the title of your video, we own it, and we can claim all your revenue.
That was
How
like
did they get with that?
Nowhere.
Oh yeah, they completely failed and they had to do a grovelling apology, which they reluctantly did. But that reminds me, there was a joke article about Metallica suing because they were quite quick to sue their fans for any sort of reason.
Yeah.
There was this joke article that they were suing people. They're suing a whole load of bands for using basically sort of a chord change from an E to an F. That's very much in line with what we do. So we're going to sue everybody that uses it.
I remember that, and I think all it took was someone to put up where that key change had been made before they existed, and suddenly there was that was them done. I think with the Fine Bros thing, it was just a case that they had not sought proper legal advice, so they made this announcement, and then their lawyers went, you can't do that. So, and suddenly it was all that sort of thing. But yeah, so people have been having fun with that. So, first of all, you have people tweeting at Jack Dorsey, who's the owner of, or the CEO of Twitter, saying, at what point do you step in and specifically mention that hashtags don't belong to anyone? And people saying, I was born on May the 4th. Does that mean that you technically own my birthday? And then people were obviously absolutely memeing in the rest of the comments. So, my favourite part of May the 4th is when Disney blacklisted the LA Times from film reviews because it wrote about their shady practices. Nice try, bad lawyers. Hashtag May the 4th. By sharing anything with me on Twitter, Disney agrees that they owe me $10 million. I'll be modest. It's like, yes, by sharing your messages with me using hashtag Cataday, you agree to give me all of your cats. Terms of use here, yourcatismycatnow.com. And that sort of thing. People declining, and that sort of thing. Where is this now? Come on. It's just people putting silly things. I draw incest porn. Hashtag May the 4th. Sort of thing. The Empire Strikes Back with intrusive and abusive terms of service. Hashtag May the 4th. Yes. But loads of people posting things about the grooming gangs as well, like just hate facts going on.
Hate facts.
Hate facts. And that sort of thing. It's like, we're going to file a class action lawsuit against you, basically. Yes, and lots of people saying, sending pictures of Gordon Ramsay saying, "What are you, an idiot sandwich?" So yes, that's been
Perfect.
the Disney backfire. I wondered why it was trending. Obviously a week before it was supposed to do it. But yeah, nonsense. What else do I have here? I want to avoid coronavirus for as long as physically possible. Oh yes, have you seen the drama with Piers Morgan?
And Paul Joseph
Started
Watson.
unfollowing him, is that right?
Yes, Donald Trump only follows 46.
Stop following him, I should say.
He only follows 46 people on Twitter. Piers was the 47th, and now he's been summarily removed.
Well, Piers Morgan did write an article saying, "Mr. President, shut the fuck up." So
in those in those exact words, nonetheless, no less.
Yes.
So now he's written a new letter called "An Open Letter to President Trump from his (brackets) now unfollowed (close parentheses) friend."
Oh my gosh, such a
Piers,
loser.
friend Piers Morgan, cut the COVID crap. Stop whining, get serious, and show some damn empathy, or it will cost you the White House. To who? Like no-brain Biden, with his team of people who were saying, no, not his head, not his brain, but his heart, with an actual. That was an actual ad. And they had,
you see the? Did you see the one with the meme app, the poster app they made?
Oh.
So they had this idea.
Oh yes.
That you would be able to enter your name and your photograph, and then it would kind of make a ready image of you. So I'm on Team Joe, with you being on one side, your face or your figure, and then your name. And of course, a conservative observer, a prominent conservative account, immediately spotted the possibilities there. And a poster was put up on Twitter of Xi Jinping with the name Xi Jinping on, and I'm on Team Joe.
Yeah, let me. I've seen ones for Elliot Rogers.
No.
I've seen Adolf Hitler.
Yep. That was the first one. So then that account. So how do I say? Obviously, it must have then dawned on the Democrats. Oh my God, what have we done? But in comes Roy Rogers to the rescue in the form of Twitter.
Oh.
And they take down the prominent, conservative account.
Right.
Because fake news. This is doctored. This is doctored digital material. Xi Jinping doesn't really support Joe Biden. So
I'd so laugh if the Chinese government. I just want the Chinese government to put out an official statement.
We disavow.
Confirmation.
Just confirmation. Yeah, confirmation.
They basically deliberately misunderstood the joke and said, "Oh, it's this is deliberately manipulated fake news," whereas it was obviously a joke, and it was hoisting the Democrats by their own petard, as in, are you really so stupid that you would put out something like this and think nobody would make a joke of this? And of course, once that account got cancelled, news went round like wildfire. And then, of course, an avalanche ensued of people coming up with no end of different posters. This is a meme. This is a meme machine of their own making. They've created an app with which to ridicule them. Nobody has yet managed that in a presidential campaign, I think.
No, it's a gaff of mimetic proportions, shall we say. It's just...
gaff prop.
Oh, God. But yes, speaking of Piers Morgan, though, just jumping back to that side of things.
Yeah, sorry.
He was just... I'm going to read this letter to you. I just want your summary reaction. Dear Donald, first name basis. On Friday evening, you unfollowed me on Twitter.
Oh, cringe!
This is giving me vibes of what was it, like that Indian guy who was like, "You are no longer my best friend." 1 second, like Indian, not my best friend. Yes.
Oh,
So
the
friendship
desperation.
friendship ended with Mudasir. Now Salman is my best friend, and it's like. I'll put the image in stream chat and then obviously put it up the stream as well. But there we go. So it was just this nonsense. That's just the vibe that I'm getting from this. I need someone to Photoshop in Piers Morgan and Donald Trump's face on this image and send it to me. I think that would be fantastic. Where is this in? Browse. So people should be able to see that now on stream. But this is the vibe, so I think it's an appropriate picture to have up there. Yes. There we go. Which, given you only follow 47 accounts, was not an insignificant decision. It's like, unfriending me on Twitter was not an insignificant decision, Mr. President. Are you sure you know who you're messing with? It came a few hours after I posted a column in which I lambasted you for using your daily coronavirus press briefings to air batshit crazy cure theories like injecting or ingesting bleach into patients with COVID-19. That one seems to have passed me by. Did he actually say we should inject bleach into ourselves? Go on. Can you explain?
No, he didn't. I have said a few times now that once in a while Donald Trump seems to go on a bit of a ramble. So he too seems to be having a few Joe Biden moments. Now, they don't seem to be quite so medically worrying as those of Joe Biden, but they're nonetheless there. And you can kind of tell he starts sort of thinking aloud, as though he had no inner monologue, if you know what I mean. And he starts sort of mumbling along, and that's how he sort of... You can't help but suspect that perhaps with some meetings, some of his medical advisors have kind of told him that certain routes are perhaps being investigated.
Right.
And then he's kind of got sort of a half idea still stuck in his head, and he's in a press conference, and then he starts uttering something like that. And he didn't say, we should be doing this. People should be doing this. That's how it was deliberately misrepresented by the media and by the political opponents.
The media deliberately misinterpreting and using something for political
it's such a
gain.
rare
Not having
thing.
that.
But
it's just the fact they used the word disinfect. Then everyone went, well, that's the only thing that can disinfect things is bleach, so he must mean drink bleach or inject bleach up your bum.
That is also true. Yes, he never mentioned bleach. He mentioned sort of disinfect or disinfectant. He afterwards tried to talk his way out of it by saying, "Oh, I was only being sarcastic." Yeah, right. No,
Yeah,
I mean,
you should have just said, "Look, the word has more than one meaning."
There is no way that was being sarcastic.
No.
So he kind of bumbled into this. Then the media immediately grabbed hold of it, ran with it. Nancy Pelosi was making statements.
Oh, God.
Hillary Clinton was advising people on Twitter not to take bleach just because the president told them to.
Well, I saw that they were trotting out that abomination, which was the news story from a couple of weeks previously, where some nutters had decided that because chloroquine was in some product that they drank a load of
an
it.
Aquarium cleaner. Yes.
That was right, yeah. And they were like, "Oh, you see, this is Trump's America."
Yes.
And it was like,
Did it not turn those people were actually Democrats, so...
Shh. Don't worry about the details. This is Trump's America, Dale.
But yes, I mean, he had a part in sort of, creating this, because he went into an area into which he never should have gone. But he didn't actually explicitly say what was afterwards alleged.
I'm sure. It sounds to me like a bit of a gaffe. As I say, I can't really pass comment on it because I haven't seen it. But
I mean, it was a gaffe in that he wasn't very clear, but then obviously everybody's just gone, well, this is what I think he meant, and run with it.
I've got things in the chat. People saying CNN fake news. Polyphant saying he kind of implied it would be great if you could just inject disinfectant and that would solve the problem.
Or perhaps one should look into that. Yes.
Muse the Reaper is saying, "Are you guys really defending Trump here? He's been dreadfully irresponsible with this comment." So I don't know. There you go. Bill Whitaker is saying that Trump was referencing far UV lights in the trachea. Cedar Sinai are currently researching it. British are completely and utterly ignorant of the facts as usual. So that's that. I probably didn't need to read that.
He did mention the light. He did mention the light, and then he went on to talk about disinfecting, and he mentioned the word injection. So yes, he started by talking of possibly exposing people to a great deal of light, because that might help. Then possibly exposing them to light from the inside. And then he went on to disinfectant and injection, and and you could see that clearly he had been given some, he'd been given some briefing, and he was kind of half remembering it. But this is what I mean with, it seemed as if he had no inner monologue. He was kind of thinking aloud in front of the World Press Corps,
which is
at
something
a presidential briefing.
You probably shouldn't do.
Yes.
I wonder whether or
But
not
in
this is
fairness
just
to him, he did not actually say what eventually was made out of it.
I wonder whether or not he's going to
And
have
please, could that person in chat calm down?
I wonder whether or not this is a crafty tactical move to set himself up as the light within us all, Britisher. I was trying to say before you so rudely interrupted. That's fine. So, yes, Donald. Yes, you've been airing your batshit crazy cure theories like injecting or ingesting bleach into patients with COVID-19. I used very forceful language. You told him to shut the fuck up, and you're surprised.
Tell the president of the United States to shut the fuck up.
Yeah, and then you're surprised when he removes you from his inner circle of Twitter followers.
Well, I mean, just consider for a moment that he is the head of state.
Yes.
So forget about whether you agree with policies or whatever. He is actually the ceremonial head of state of the United States of America. So if you say shut the fuck up to the president of the United States, it is the same as though you were saying shut the fuck up to the Queen of England. Now,
she definitely would unfollow you on Twitter for that.
Yeah,
would
definitely.
Piers go that way? So, yes, that's where I think, he more than likely didn't think that one through.
I mean, I don't know if that's a decent allegory given the differences in the role of the Queen versus Piers.
Well, no, I mean, both of them are the de facto head of state.
Yes, but the Queen isn't giving press briefings and saying, perhaps one should try and ingest bleach in order to cure coronavirus.
True.
Philip has done it and he's looking marvellous.
Do not actually say shut the fuck up to a head of state.
True. He says, indeed, the column began with that statement, and for that I make no apology. You are the most powerful person in America. Your words carry enormous weight and consequence, so I decided to tell you to shut the fuck up. Within hours of you suggesting it might be a good idea to use bleach, again we've ascertained apparently it wasn't even bleach, one public health hotline in one state received 100 phone calls asking about whether or not they should use household detergents to combat the virus.
Yes, I don't believe it for a second.
Well, if it is true, then it's the media's fault for twisting the word disinfect into disinfectant.
I've been hearing about
wait.
disinfecting all day, every day. What's the problem with that word?
No, let me put this in perspective. Maryland has a population of 6 million people, and they received less than 100 phone calls. It's like if there are 100 idiots in Maryland. Congratulations.
I think the connection was made with him speaking of, as I say, I don't exactly know whether it was disinfect or disinfectant or whatever, but he clearly was in that ballpark. What then happened was that the makers of Lysol the chief disinfectant, the
they
most sold disinfectant in America, which is bleach.
And they make
They then came out and said, we are completely distancing ourselves. Please, under no circumstances, do this. And I think that put that kind of grain, that seed into the mind of everybody. Oh, he must be talking about bleach. So I think that's how it more than likely wandered from one to the other.
Yeah, but you'd think that if the media, who are apparently, on the side of the people, then maybe they shouldn't have advertised it so falsely, basically going, oh, he said bleach, he said bleach, he said bleach. Then the more people think about it, then the more people are are more likely to do it.
Well, you see, but once Hillary Clinton and Nancy Pelosi were up there pontificating, you basically either had to go with it or you had to officially disagree with them.
Pontificating, that's very diplomatic of you.
But you understand what I mean? So would they actually break? Would they break with, Saint Hillary and Nancy Pelosi? So in a way, that was the moment when they all kind of, agreed, well, now we're definitely all going to sing from that hymn sheet.
Right. Anyway, moving on from the bleach thing, Piers goes on to say, this latest debacle came after you previously and repeatedly hyped up hydroxychloroquine as another cure until it turned out to cause more deaths in COVID patients than those who weren't treated with it. This is a terrifying illustration of how dangerous your rhetoric can be. So yes, I think when it comes to floating mad ideas about potential cures for coronavirus, you should shut the fuck up. I can understand why such direct language from a long-time friend may have offended you, and I understood that when I wrote it. You have a notoriously thin skin, Donald, and take any criticism very badly. This is his long-time friend.
That's what friends are for, right?
Yes. From personal experience, I don't think you're a stranger, especially in an open letter written in the Daily Mail. I don't think you're a stranger to deploying such profane terminology yourself when something angers you. We've known each other for 15 years. I've always tried to be fair and balanced, blah, blah, blah. I am an outlier in current media, the vast majority of whom either implacably criticize you or blindly support you. But if you can't handle my criticism and our friendship is over, then let me mark the end of our relationship with a few home truths about your spectacularly bad handling of this crisis that may yet still enable you to get re-elected in November. Get serious. Very serious. World leaders that are seeing their approval ratings soar, including Merkel, Jacinda Ardern from New Zealand, and Francis Emmanuel Macron, are the ones who realised early on this was going to be the biggest crisis in their country's modern history and adjusted accordingly. Nobody wants to see or hear their leader playing the buffoon when thousands are dying. Show some damn empathy and compassion. You've barely mentioned the terrible impact of this coronavirus on the American people. You spent just 4.5 minutes expressing condolences in over 13 hours of talking from the podium. More than 55,000 Americans have now died. Their relatives, friends, and co-workers want to hear that you care about them, so show them you do. We need hope amid the despair. And then he goes on and basically gives a few more. Stop warring with the media. Cut the briefings to 45 minutes. Tell the truth and stop praising yourself. And that's, I can't be bothered to go through the rest of it. So,
when you first mentioned, have you seen the thing with Piers Morgan? I thought you were going on about Paul Joseph Watson and his.
Basically, Piers had his meltdown, didn't he? And then Paul Joseph Watson basically said, "I'm a bigger celebrity than you. Also, I'm more handsome. Fuck you." Like, that was the extent of that, and went on a glorious rant at him. And then, which resulted in Piers Morgan blocking PJW, which he considered to be a win. But I don't know. I don't know if the ramblings of Paul Joseph Watson, when he's clearly just trying to have a troll of Piers and succeeding, was necessarily quite as adept. But yeah,
it's not as newsworthy, but it was funnier. I think Paul was probably on a cocaine binge or something like that.
I don't know. Apparently he's off the stuff from what my friends tell me about Sam.
Oh, right, okay.
But we'll see how that goes. Where's this thing? The research which claimed hydroxychloroquine was lethal has been retracted, apparently. It was faulty research. So lots of doctors are self-prescribing it. That's the thing. Piers got cancelled for being offensively less handsome than PJW. Yeah, that's the prevailing narrative at the moment. Oh yes, so other things which are going on, just kind of surrounding the coronavirus. Lambeth Council have had posters put up around their town, but also online from Extinction Rebellion. So there's a statement from Extinction Rebellion saying, "The Extinction Rebellion Lambeth Reclaim Your Street service will allow any group of residents in the borough to request that a road be temporarily closed or filtered to give more space for people to exercise. You know your streets best, and you should be trusted to call for their closure and see it enacted. Extinction Rebellion has the skills, the experience, and the equipment to shut roads safely. This is a service we will offer to you. We can close a road for a period of 2 hours, though residents should feel empowered to keep the road closed for longer, should they feel they need to." So it's like, oh, right, the climate cultists have got nothing to do now that the climate's being effectively, we know, for instance, that Venice, that's the word I'm looking for. Venice in Italy has the canals have gone clear for the first time.
Yeah, the dolphins are back.
Yeah, and lots going on there. We know that in China, the skies and smog's cleared for the first time. It really helps you appreciate how good our air quality is here, to be honest.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it? Yeah.
And that sort of thing. But now that they're not allowed to sit out on Fridays, because every day is a sit-out day, they've decided that they will become a road closure service, even though I'm pretty sure that's entirely illegal in and of itself. So people are saying, I sincerely hope Lambeth Council and the police take immediate action should XR attempt to block any road, regardless of the vehicle in question. Can you imagine if they block it and then they just all get arrested for violating social distancing by putting out their barriers as they go along? Or if they turn it into and perhaps it'll be a naked protest, like at the beginning of the lockdown, when you had a load of topless, ugly women who were standing and chanting "We will not be moved" on a freezing cold day in the middle of one of London's bridges. Honestly, these people. What else have we got? So the Babylon Bee put out an article saying, public school teacher says homeschooling is making kids more stupider. This was obviously a parody article, except that in real life, Harvard, smart people misspell arithmetic whilst advocating ban on homeschooling.
Oh, ouch.
Oh. If you're going to advocate to ban education in some form or another, perhaps run it through Grammarly first.
Oh dear.
Oh dear, just...
I don't put an S on the maths, so what can you expect from these people?
Oh. It's just nonsense. It's so hard to parody these people sometimes when they're genuinely putting stuff out. Of course, in general positive news, Boris Johnson is back at Downing Street. He's gone back to work after recovering at Chequers, but of course had to mention in his speech that this is the most dangerous point. We are cresting the peak. We are riding the wave. This is the moment of maximum risk. So please don't be impatient and that sort of thing. How long do we think, guys? How long do we think this lockdown is going to last at this point? Because the Conservatives have tacitly admitted that really the damage that is being done economically, which will cost lives for those of you who are out there saying it's a question of lives versus the economy. No, the economy is made of people, and if you take away people's livelihoods, you'll see things like the Great Depression in America in the 30s, and this is predicted to be worse than that if it goes on for more than 3 months. So if we've got this thing going, we've been on this now for 4, maybe nearly 5 weeks, and and we've obviously got another 2 to go before they let us know again. But how long do you reckon that they'll actually keep it shut?
I reckon it's going to be another month or so.
I think it just basically depends on how long it will take for the figures to reduce. And I don't think the lockdown will ease up for everyone at the same time. So it will be a gradual affair. So when you say, when will it end, it will end for different people of different groups at different times.
Well, I would hope so. That sounds out of context. That just sounds like
so whether they're ever going to let the pensioners outside again, who knows?
Well, yeah. I mean, I know they say Italy was 2 months, but I don't know whether or not it's clear.
6 weeks or so. I'm not sure. I think Italy are just slightly ahead of us, aren't they?
Yeah, like a week or so, or 10 days, perhaps it is. I know that I fully expect it to be, as British says, a scaled thing. But I know that the Tories will now be kind of hankering to get people back to work because, was it the CMO or who was it who said, it has always been the message of this government that if you are able to work, you should work, which has not been the message from governments at all. The message has been stay home, stay safe, protect the NHS. But basically, and I know that they allowed DIY shops to open, so B&Q did it. But of course, this brings up the fact that everyone seems to be slightly confused about how lockdown protocols being enforced. So, for instance, B&Q opened 130 branches across the UK over the weekend, and loads of people went there. So you've got all these people queuing up, socially distanced, much the same way as people who are going to the shops for essential grocery shopping are doing so as well. But at the same time, they're still arresting sunbathers who are effectively doing the same thing for perhaps the same amount of time. I mean, I don't know how it is with you folks, but I'm waiting 45 minutes at the moment to get into my local shops.
Really?
Yeah, just queued up outside, 45 minutes.
Making yourself a book.
Well, it's not too much of a problem. Got my music, just chatting to people. But it's
one of these people that brings the fold-out chair, Mark. I feel like that's what my dad's been doing with his camping chair.
they are selling them now in the front of the.
I've noticed.
Asda.
I know.
Yeah. So.
Hilarious.
But people are obviously pointing out, like, what's the difference between that and me saying, right, well, instead, when I go out for my hour's exercise or whatever, I'll spend 10 minutes going to the park, then I'll stay away from everyone else, I'll stay in the sun, and then I'll go home. There's no difference, unless either of the boys here want to refute me on this and say, you're disgusting, so how dare you advocate for sunbathers' rights?
Bikini rights. That's more your thing, isn't it, Britisher?
Bikini rights. Oh well,
I don't
anything
know
scantily
whether clad women.
I don't know whether Not So Obvious wears a bikini when he sunbathes. So,
cool, good call.
Not the last time I went out, at least.
The last time you checked, no.
So people saying, why is it okay? In fact, Ken Marsh, chair of the Met Police Federation, said, why is it okay to queue outside with hundreds of people, but not to sit on a blanket in a park well away from everyone else? It doesn't make any sense. And we're wasting resources on, policing this thing. It doesn't make any sense to the colleagues or the public. And the police complaining because, of course, everyone's shouting at the police at the moment for not doing their job properly. But on the other hand, they're being told that they're not doing enough to enforce it by the government and that sort of thing. Although there are some funny stories, people were caught 250 miles from home driving without insurance or a driving license, which is just strong effort, Where's this sort of thing? Oh yes, so 160 people were fined over the Easter weekend, including one person who drove over 100 miles to collect an eBay purchase.
That's commitment at any time.
In my defence,
others were fined for going on fishing trips or travelling to the region to get away from family. And it's like, well, the government have said, as part of their guidelines, that if you need to escape arguments at home, which is it's a cover for domestic violence. Like they want people to say, if you're being beaten by your other or someone else at home, then you can get out if you like. Don't feel trapped at home. That's what argument means. But at the same time, people are. I imagine tempers are fraying, especially if they live in very small homes. I know I have a very good friend of mine, and he's moved back to be with family, and he's not regretting it, but it is a small terraced house, and there are now 5 adults in that house. So it's a bit of a matchbox situation where they're stuck there, and he's going absolutely mad. Thankfully, he says, "I've got a garden that I can go out and sit in and just escape for a little bit, but it's a little bit claustrophobic." So I can only imagine in families where perhaps relations aren't so sanguine, then it's become very difficult. So the idea that people are travelling to get away from families is perfectly reasonable in my estimation, as long as they're maintaining social distancing rules. I know that it's slightly different when you've got people loading up in the car with all the family and are driving places, but it's just strange. It's also the numbers as well seem quite small. So it's 5,500 people were talked to during targeted patrols, and 1,000 of them were given verbal warnings after they failed to follow the guidance. So
as opposed to in Scotland, where 12 people decided to basically go and open a pub and
oh my gosh, Tails!
have a lock-in during the lockdown, and they all got fined.
That's amazing. I mean, there's a pub just down the road from me, and they were having a proper rave in there like the other night. I don't know what was going. I assume it's just that they need to use up the stuff that they've got in freezers, and so they decided that they'd have a party. I think they live above the place, so it's it's not that they're inviting people in, but you could just hear this music and see them all the staff getting wasted on the dance floor. It's funny. Yeah. Enigmatic in chat saying, "Imagine having family sent by orphan gang." Oh, that's a bit dark. Grief.
Very, very dark.
Oh, I'm sorry. Hikari Manakiniko sent in a super chat earlier saying, "It turns out May the 4th is also World Naked Gardening Day." So
that's where you can find me.
Yeah.
Are you going to be? There was that clip going. There was that clip going around a couple of weeks ago of that guy. The female police officer comes up and is saying, "You can't be in your front garden. You can't have kids in front garden."
Yes.
It's like, imagine if everyone decides to just take the naturist route, and the police are there walking around, and there's just like a load of nude people in their gardens going. Can you imagine trying to give a caution to some nudist?
Where do you live, Mark? Where do you live?
Exactly. Yeah. It's my property, isn't it? What's there's no indecent exposure, and it's locked down, so nobody else is outside. No one's going to be walking down the street. What I do in the comfort of my own home, you should stop looking in on my private property. Thank you very much, officer.
Yeah, I mean that's what I would do. I would just basically wave my willy about and just go, "What are you going to do about it, eh?"
Oh, Tails.
Well, some people have to take it to such a degenerate level. It's just...
You were all thinking it.
Am I also aware of the submarine captain at Faslane who was sacked for organising a raid? I am not. Could you link me up?
Oh,
we could possibly have a look.
Raid? What, on the submarine?
Where's this now?
Well, at least he will have got sacked for having a party.
Oh, yeah.
Which would be a bit inappropriate at any time on a submarine.
Yeah.
I still remember the poor chap who, in trials with the brand new submarine class that was top secret, managed to strand his brand new submarine, and the tide went out. And
they were trying to keep it a secret, weren't they?
Is it the bridge to the Isle of Wight?
Oh dear.
Was in direct, eye shot of it. So any would-be, Russian agents could simply drive over the bridge in a car and take as many photographs of the stranded, highly top secret British brand new submarine as they
Only
went.
several
There
billion
was
pounds
loads
worth
of tourists standing around taking pictures of it and everything.
Not something you. That's a strange looking whale, isn't it?
If you sort of look at reasons to be fired for being a submarine captain, partying on the submarine during lockdown is more than likely is one of the lesser misdemeanors.
It'd be a cool environment to party in, though, wouldn't it?
It would, because there's loads of flashing lights and stuff anyway.
Yeah, the red lights. Yeah, of course. The periscope.
Who turned the radar on? Yes.
Ravedar, more like.
Hey. Love it.
Cringe.
But based.
Let me see. Edby Visual says, "Hey Mark, you should interview Hector Drummond. He's skeptical of the lockdown scientist and academic. I believe he has some well-informed takes. I will look it up. Unfortunately, I'm a bit busy this current week, but obviously it's going to extend beyond that. From the 7th, I'm really looking to throw myself into the Atrocity Project stuff, but if I have time for other interviews, then I'm sure I will pop those up as well. But yes, so going back to Boris Johnson coming back into Downing Street, he has some interesting things. So some paused NHS services such as cancer care are to resume, which is positive news because obviously people are waiting chemo and that sort of thing. They need their care. How many people will actually turn up to their appointments when they know that they could possibly catch coronavirus? I don't know. Families of frontline NHS and social care staff who die with coronavirus are now receiving £60,000 compensation. I'm sure that puts their mind at ease. But yes, there are 82 NHS staff and 16 care workers who we know have died in hospital, which is a real shame. But we don't know. Again, when I'm looking at all the statistics when it comes to coronavirus, I'm not massively skeptical, but every country seems to be collecting different stats from different areas. So you've got some which are collecting the full range of stats, which is hospital deaths, but also care homes and people who die in their own homes. And countries which are small enough or have the infrastructure to do that are doing that. Our country, for instance, is only reporting hospital deaths. We don't know about people who've died in the community, in care homes, or in their own homes. Not that I think that it would be possible to register those deaths, but also you don't know the manner in which those deaths are being registered because, morticians are not the ones, writing death certificates, cause of death, coronavirus, right? We can only confirm the deaths of coronavirus in people who die in hospitals. So it's also possible that the stats get deflected and inflated or even minimized using this sort of technique, and I think it's really ramshackle and shoddy at the moment. So no, I don't trust any stats at the moment. Not that British trust stats at all, ever. Anyway.
Indeed.
But yes.
I'm afraid I've got to drop out, I'm afraid, Boris. I could only stay for an hour, so...
No problem. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Sorry about that.
Pleasure to have you
Thank you
on.
for having me. It's nice to speak with you all again. I'll carry on listening now, so no slagging me off.
Would we ever do such a thing? Take care, Sarah.
Now Salmon is my best friend.
Now Salmon.
All right. Bye, Frank.
Take care.
Bye, Sarah.
See you about.
Oh, thank God we've got the woman off the stream.
Well, yeah, at last she's gone,
God, couldn't get a word in edgeways.
There's only 2 words I have for her. Disgracefully incompetent.
They just wouldn't shut up. Yeah, I'm sorry, Sarah. That's not what we mean.
Simp.
Simp. Oh, simp for Sarah, bless her. Where's this? Yeah. So I don't think... Yeah, just more waffling from Boris. We don't know how long it's going to be. We've seen signs of progress, something which was echoed by Nicola Sturgeon and by Matt Hancock, because of course all the Tories have the same hymn sheet that they're singing from. The only other story, the big story that I can think of, which came out this week, was of course that the petition to release the grooming gangs report got a statement released back to it which didn't address anything which the petition was asking.
It's just an internal matter.
It wasn't. No, it wasn't even that. It was just, this government is committed to reducing, child sexual exploitation. Child sexual exploitation is a bad thing. People who suffer from child sexual exploitation, treating it a bit like a disease there, come from many walks of life, many different cultural backgrounds, and perpetrators do too. Got to make sure it's all inclusive. You're all rapists. That's what it is. And that was that. Whereas the actual petition said, look, you've said it's not in the public interest. This is why it's in the public interest. You've said you haven't given us anything for us, and so they just didn't address the public interest question at all. Very bog standard report. So I would recommend to anyone who happens to live in Britain to write to your MP and complain about this. That would be a good one. They still have to come back within 46 days, 45 now, and tell us whether or not they're going to have a debate on it. I don't think there's a debate coming.
I don't think there's a debate.
I can just imagine the response from my SNP MP.
Go on.
Do I really have to spell it out?
Yes.
Well, I think it would just be a generic yes. It would pretty much be the same as the response that the government gave, which would be quite ironic, really, when you think about it. But yeah, they've no real interest in finding out or releasing any information about rape gangs. They've already covered up the ones that were happening in Glasgow.
Yeah.
So.
Indeed. Unfortunately, guys, my throat is going again. So I'm going to have to bring the stream to a close.
You're about to turn into Ivan Rebrov, and you want to get off microphone before it happens, aren't you?
Yes, I can feel the lyrics swelling within my breast, British. That's what it is. But
never say that again.
It's what, swelling within my breast? Someone's going to clip that, aren't they? But no, it's been an absolute pleasure, gents, to have you on. Thank you to everyone in the chat who came by. Thank you to those who sent in super chats. It's very much appreciated, especially at this time. We shall look forward to next week's fake accents, which will hopefully be on time. But unfortunately, my throat is still not 100% better. It's getting
well.
Also, hello, Poe.
It's without any contribution of ours. There will already be a highlight there from Sutskowen next week.
Oh, I have no. But yes, I'm sorry to everyone who was hoping for more. I'm hoping to bring a longer episode next time. But as I say, unfortunately,
I don't know if you want to apologise to Poe, who has just appeared in this.
I don't know who you're talking about. Poe doesn't exist.
Okay.
So there's that.
Hello, Poe.
Good night.
Hello, non-existent person.
Good night, everyone. Take care and have a good evening.
Aikiva.
Toodle pip.